Hello, I'm Archibald Chesterfield III, AC3, and today I'd like to talk about dumping friends. That's correct. I very recently dumped a very wealthy friend of mine, and I'd been friends with him for approaching 20 years. And I gotta tell you, it's one of these things. Sometimes in your watch collecting, you dump pieces because, hey, it served its purpose. It's no longer floating your boat. There's also friends. They have a life cycle, and sometimes it's good to reset the clock and start from fresh with a new approach and direction. And I had a bit of a falling out with this friend. He came from, I'd known him 20 years. I'd known him from buying and selling goods, especially wristwatches. And then I had a falling out with him. And, it's one of these things. He was a negative. He was a positive. I thought he was positive. But he really was a really negative person who was pretending to be positive. And he'd made a lot of money. And I gotta tell you, it's kind of strange, but he'd done very well. I was never ever jealous because he always appeared to be so damn miserable and stingy. And I kind of thought, if that's what being rich is, you got to sell your soul and do whatever it takes. Maybe that's not really the game plan, the end plan after all. And I'd known him for a long time. I'd actually worked for him for a period of time. He was quite a difficult guy to work for, but I've got my failings. He could also be extremely kind and generous. He had many positive attributes, but at the end of the day, I decided to end the friendship. Even though this person is probably worth $5 to $10 million, he became a liability to me. And, it's one of these things. When you know people who are extremely rich, it's kind of like the money gives them extra bonus rights that poorer people don't have. And I got sick of kowtowing to him because he had more money than me. And I mean, his money really didn't make one bit of difference to me whatsoever. It really didn't change anything. It didn't affect me in a good way or a bad way. It was nothing to do with me. And I gotta be completely frank and honest with you. The fact that the relationship is now in no man's land of no, it's unfixable, I kind of pleased to be rid of him out of my life because he was really quite a pungent person, very strong in his opinions. Because he's got more money than me, I can't possibly be right because he's got more money. So he's smarter, he's got more, whatever you want to say there. But I tried a number of business ventures with him, which, to be quite frank and honest with you, although I believe he never tried to cheat me, they never really satisfied me because I could never work out how we were going. I could never work out the profits. I could never work out it just didn't work. And I gotta be totally honest with you there. I was friends for many, many years, but it was really the negativity. He told me the world's gonna crash. He was a doom and gloomer. He told me conspiracy theories. He believed the moon landing never happened. He believed 9/11 was a plot by the government to take control. And, I kind of, these far-fetched ideas, sometimes in a weird mood, I'd accept what he said as true. But he was constantly looking for negativity, negative things. He was constantly looking for doom and gloom financially. He would scour the financial press for talk of share market or bank collapse or this is going to happen, that's going to be collapse. And I remember one day I said to him, hey, what does it matter? What does it matter? In your case, you're worth well over $5 million. You've got real estate investments. I said, if your real estate investments, say they halved, or even worse, say they lost 60%, so they're worth 30% of the current values. You owe no money on any of these real estate investments. What does it matter? You simply hold out, ride out the downturn, and then you bounce back. I said the only time it really matters when you've got a real estate investment and the market collapses is if you have borrowings and you've got to service the debt. If you've got to service the loan, well, hey, you can't ride out the storm. But in your case, all your real estate investments are paid off. You've got the titles. You've got the titles. And I said this to him. I said, you've got the titles. What does it really matter? If the real estate market collapsed, it doesn't matter. You would simply ride it out. If anything, if the real estate market collapsed, you could make a lot of money because you could then gear up, buy more, and ride it through to improvement. The other thing he always said to me was the wristwatch. He had a very valuable vintage wristwatch collection, probably $1 million to $2 million in watches. And he was always concerned the market could crash tomorrow. But these things were so rare. I said to him again, I said, you don't owe any money on them. What does it matter? If they fall, you've still got all these beautiful possessions for you to enjoy. I said, these pieces are so rare and scarce, you sort of, you own that space. You own that space. There's nothing to be had from, even if they did fall, so what? You don't want to sell them anyhow. And then he had other investments. He had a whole lot of cash. He'd have a whole lot of cash in bank accounts and also in safety deposit boxes. And I said, well, what does that mean? If one currency collapses, maybe the other one will do better. I said, you gotta look at the positive thing. Everything you own is virtually paid off. He did have one small loan on a property that he owned with his brother, and it was just so insignificant, it's not funny. And I said to him, I said, you're always negative, always talking about the doom and the gloom, and it's going to crash, and this is going to be bad, and we're on the edge of depression. I said, hey, there are probably some bad things that will happen in time, sure. One country might be affected, another, but are we going to have a global depression? I said, I don't really think so. And even if we do have a global depression, everything you own is paid off. Everything you own is paid off. And after a depression, you can be sure prices come good eventually. They will come good again. So why worry and be constantly on the lookout for negativity? And I gotta tell you, sometimes in life you need to weed out these people who are super negative. And sometimes rich people themselves there. I tried to do a number of business deals with him, but because he had all the money, he would never really listen to my advice. I tried the strap business. And, you know the story. I had these straps, which I was going to sell. I put together a mock website just to see how we do some research. And I said to him, hey, we need to, instead of having 300 variations, we need to standardize on 40 to 50 basic straps. We need to have fatso size for fat Americans and, well, ones that would fit me even, for example. I said, we need fatso size straps and we need a buckle. They need some sort of buckle on every one of these pieces. And when I mentioned this to him, yes, but it was too hard. He really wasn't interested in following any of the advice. And I gave them all back to him. I didn't want to have his straps. I didn't want to be stuck with them. And then I get invoiced by him. I just gave them all back, said, hey, here's your straps back. Thank you so much. See you later. And that was probably the best thing I could do there, because just because a person is rich, if you go into business with them, doesn't mean you will become rich. What it means is they are rich, but just be very careful, because it won't automatically make you rich. You've got to have a good business. It's got to be a good backbone. You got to have a good plan, a marketing plan. You got to have a good idea. And to be quite frank and honest with you there, I think it's time I ditched this friendship. I ditched it. It's sad. It's sad. Yes, it is sad. And but I got to be honest with you. I'm really pleased the negativity's gone. And I'm really pleased that I've said goodbye. I can move on. I haven't got time to waste with people I don't really like. And it's sad because I was friends for 20 years. We did have a bad patch. We had a few bad patches. But I think now it's probably best not to have that friendship. And it's a process. Sometimes in life, you got to regenerate. And this is how it goes. I'm Archibald Chesterfield III, AC3, ditching friends of significance. Tell me what you guys think of that. Nice one, Arch. Great vid.